Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From multiple Washington state troopers hit on the highway to a beached well along Oregon's coast, we are taking the pulse of America, but we start in Maryland, where Baltimore police are cracking down on crime this summer.
Almost from the beginning, this holiday weekend was buzzing
15 dirt bikes on the lot
with the sounds of trouble.
An emergency, somebody trying to break into the front of the house.
And just before midnight Sunday night came this.
Please enforce anyone drinking alcohol in the open.
The message aimed at officers who were detailed to Fells Point, where dozens of teenagers had filled the streets. Some of them were fighting mad and fueled by alcohol. Photos we obtained show the crowd rolling in coolers and preparing for business. This homemade concoction sold for $10. And regardless of age, if you had the money, you had a drink. But for the first time in a long time, officers were enforcing the open container law, confiscating and eliminating any number of bottles and bags from any number of people.
A rare sighting from the shore. A humpback whale floating in the water over the weekend, now washing up in Nehalem Bay State Park.
We took some pictures of it and we had some binoculars and then it drifted past the jetty out of sight, and then we heard that it had washed ashore this morning, so we came to check it out.
Nick Hankins and his friends saw the whale floating before it washed up and made the trip down the beach to see it up close himself.
It was obviously bloated, so it's probably been dead for a couple of days.
But while the work is underway, Milstein asked the public to keep their distance so researchers can study the whale in the condition as it washed up on shore.
A message to Washington state drivers after two different troopers were hit by suspected drunk drivers.
Stop drinking and driving, and they stopped putting us at risk.
Sergeant Anthony Califano tells me one of the crashes happened here in Linwood near 44th Avenue West. The trooper had his normal driving lights turned on when the other driver rear-ended his patrol SUV.
He quickly realized that vehicle wasn't slowing down, braced for contact, and then initially was impacted in the rear on the left corner panel.
Hours after that crash, another one just a few miles away on State Route 525 near 164th Street.
We are doing our best efforts. We're out there every single day doing everything we possibly can. Obviously, Trooper Chris Gadd was hit and killed on March 2nd. He was one of our detachment members, so that's still very fresh in our minds.
I'm Mark Boyle at the live desk right now, 45 minutes past the hour. And new this morning, we are learning new information about the man charged in connection to a stabbing spree at a movie theater and fast food restaurant in Massachusetts. The suspect at the center of all of it, this man right here, 26-year-old Jared Revisa. 6 people stabbed at a restaurant and movie theater, including 4 girls. For several weeks, there have been so many questions about who is this man behind all of this. Well, court records now indicate the suspect bragged about being a pro skier, a philanthropist, a leader of a local marketing group, actually. And the same suspect also being investigated for a murder in Connecticut as well. Court records have indicated the father of the suspect said his son had just a mental break and even attacked him inside their own home. The suspect now facing several charges, including assault with intent to murder and 2 counts of assault and battery with dangerous weapons stemming from that attack at the movie theater and at McDonald's.
Well, its long decline, juvenile crime is back in a big way, apparently, and taking a major toll, not just, though, in America's biggest cities. Full Measure's Cheryl Atkinson reports from rural Florida, where they are dealing with one of the most shocking and horrific crimes committed by kids.
Marion County Sheriff's Deputy Paul Bloom drives us to a dirt road neighborhood in the middle of Central Florida's Ocala National Forest.
They couldn't decide if they want to do car burglaries or go rob somebody for their marijuana.
Where unthinkable tragedy unfolded last March. 3 victims shot execution style, just 16 and 17 years old. Then another stunner.
We are shocked not only are the victims juveniles, but the murderers are juveniles as well.
One of the accused killers, Christopher Atkins, just 12 years old. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods.
I looked in the eyes of the mother of that 12-year-old, and it broke my heart down deep inside. It makes you wonder, as law enforcement, is what we see, what is the world going to turn out to be beyond us?
In a twist, police say the 3 accused killers and the 3 victims were driving around together, plotting a night of crime to get marijuana. Across the country, children are increasingly committing and becoming victims in serious crimes. The latest numbers put out by the FBI are more than 3 years old, but already in 2020 they showed murders committed by a single juvenile up 30%. Murders involving multiple juveniles up 65%. More recent stats from local governments are as troubling. In Montgomery County, Maryland, juvenile violent crime went up 329% in 2023.
When we look at the nationwide concern over rise in juvenile crime, what do you think is the answer?
Accountability. We have to change that. I don't have no immediate solutions. I do know if we don't change, it's only going to get worse.
The 3 boys charged in the triple murder are awaiting trial. They're charged as adults.
So they could be in prison for life.
That's exactly right. At minimum. And truthfully, that's where they should be.
In Maryland, where some of the worst juvenile crime spikes are happening, some officials say state reforms that dial back on punishment for juveniles is making the problem worse. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
All right, we're going to shift gears here for just a moment. Here at the live desk, a monkey on the loose in South Carolina. We're going to show you, there it is, show you this wild video coming up. The news here, that monkey was caught. We'll show you exactly where coming up in 90 seconds. A monkey on the loose in South Carolina had a lot of people talking this weekend, but new this morning we can report that pet finally captured yesterday after being on the run since Friday. Police say the owner was trying to capture the primate, had to call in some professional help to do so. You see right there in the video behind me, this was very popular. The item to be talked about in that neighborhood. Everyone seemed to be looking for the 15-year-old snow monkey named Bradley. He was spotted several times over the 2-day period. Finally, they were able to track him down in the Waterboro community that is just west of Charleston.
Well, a longtime umpire with a reputation as one of the worst in the MLB and who also lost a 2021 lawsuit against the league alleging racial discrimination is finally retiring. Angel Hernandez is known for making terrible calls in recent years. Both ESPN and USA Today report he reached a settlement to leave the league after 2 weeks of negotiations. Now, last year, Hernandez ranked dead last in a correct call rate analysis and now ranks 67th out of 85 umpires. And Hall of Fame boxer Mike Tyson is back up after suffering a medical scare during a flight from Miami to LA. But thankfully, a rep for the 57-year-old says he is doing great. Tyson became nauseous and apparently dizzy from an ulcer flare-up. His team reports this will not impact his upcoming July 20th fight with Jake Paul in Arlington, Texas. It will be Tyson's first match since his exposition fight with Roy Jones Jr. in November of 2020. It will be his first professional match, though, since 2005. And meanwhile, some unfortunate news out of the NBA this morning. Basketball legend and really renowned sports commentator Bill Walton has died. The Hall of Fame center and two-time champion passed away at the age of 71 after a prolonged battle with cancer. The sports world is paying tribute to Walton on social media yesterday and today. Among his achievements, winning a record 88 straight games at UCLA, the first overall selection in the 1974 draft, and 2 NBA titles, and being a finals MVP as well. And ahead in our next hour of the National Desk, Gen Z on the job. More teenagers turning to part-time work, helping to reverse a decades-long decline in youth employment.
Welcome back, everyone. Memorial travel was bumpy for millions of travelers Monday due to severe storms. Thankfully, things are looking a little bit better for the country, but not the Dallas area today. Taking you a live look right now over New York City. Hundreds of folks out there trying to get home and experiencing those delays and canceled flights. At LaGuardia, Kennedy, and Newark airports, there have been hours-long waits. And taking a look right now, this is a live look for you over the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Just checking the FAA actually triggering a ground stop at DFW and Love Field. Monday, strong storms cutting down and shutting down some of those key hubs that we were just talking about, and these storms could linger for a while this morning and into this afternoon.
Well, live from the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Angela Brown, in for Jan this morning. It's Tuesday, May 28th, and we begin really with the hardship ahead. Several communities are just devastated after brutal weather. Just take a look at some of the damage in parts of Arkansas. Look at this right here. Entire homes torn apart. And sadly, the threat you're looking at is not over yet, with more storms on the way today. Let's get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk. What can we expect, especially for those folks, not only in these communities, but some people actually traveling home?
Well, the story this morning quickly is shifting to power outages in Texas, Angela, and strong storms moving through as we come on the air. Let's go ahead and get right to it. To my left, I want to show you a live look over Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. This is the area we're seeing some of those strong storms move through right now. The FAA issuing a ground stop for Dallas-Fort Worth as well as Dallas-Love Field because of this. Voters across the state will be facing these storm threats today. They're casting ballots in the 2024 Texas primary runoff election today. And you see all of these active alerts behind me. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. But some new video right now from Arlington, Texas. Listen to that. You can hear the tornado siren going off in a neighborhood. At the same time, the central U.S. is still recovering from dangerous storms over the weekend that put millions at risk. This video you're looking at right now is from Claremore, Oklahoma, after a tornado caused widespread damage there. As of right now, at least 24 lives have been lost from the weather-related issues we've seen over the past week over the several states we've been monitoring. In Beaumont, Texas, we spoke with one homeowner there who's been dealing with this, and you can see the video there, a tree coming through their home. They were asleep at the time, and here they are to talk about exactly what it was like inside.
It was just very scary because I didn't know if it was still coming down, if it was going to continue to fall, if it had stopped. So very, very not fun way to wake up on a Monday morning.
So when I ran in there, there was literally insulation on her in the bed. So it was really scary.
Let's talk about the power outages for just a moment. We talked about that being a story. When I walked in the studio, the number of outages in Texas, this was at 35,000. Now it is nearly 600,000 customers without power. These storms came through very quickly, and now they're going to be dealing with that for a while this afternoon. Several other states dealing with power outages. Kentucky at 80,000, Arkansas, Missouri, West Virginia, tens of thousands of people without power, a major issue for them. And here's another live look at the radar as we track the weather alerts. Northern Texas over Dallas, Waco. Many of the airplanes that are headed to Dallas right now have been diverted to cities like Houston, San Antonio, and Austin until things finally calm down. A closer look at that region that could see the threats today, covering nearly the entire state of Texas. Severe weather here in the central portions. This orange area is where we'll be focusing, but it's not just Texas. Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas will get on this as well. Another update for you in about 30 minutes right here at the live desk and online all the time at the National Weather Desk. That's part of the nationaldesk.com.
We are honoring the service and sacrifice of 3 U.S. troops killed earlier this week. Their names and faces not forgotten. Staff Sergeant William Rivers, Sergeant Kennedy Sanders, and Sergeant Brianna Moffitt. Their pictures right here. A tribute was held on Memorial Day in Baghdad for them. They were killed during a drone attack by an Iranian-backed proxy group in January. A ceremonial wreath was presented in their honor. But the focus today is on dueling strikes in the Middle East. Reuters is reporting that an Israeli airstrike killed 45 civilians in Rafah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling it a tragic mistake. At the same time, Hamas is claiming responsibility for a rocket attack on Tel Aviv without injuries. The National Desk's Altra El-Nashar has more.
Smoking piles of debris, once shelter for displaced civilians, many of them women and children, in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. It's the aftermath of an Israeli strike Sunday, the military says was aimed at a Hamas compound, killing 2 of its leaders. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, Israeli air defenses intercepted at least half a dozen rockets, the first aimed at the area in 4 months. The Israeli military says no one was injured in this attack claimed by Hamas. The latest violence potentially jeopardizing or at least further complicating the resumption of ceasefire talks expected Tuesday in Cairo. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu under pressure to accept a deal and prioritize hostages over military action, facing protests like these in Tel Aviv.
I don't say this is more important than that is more important. I say both of them are important. Without military pressure, basically without, squeezing them, Hamas is not going to give up anything.
Across the world, President Biden also under immense political pressure, both by critics who say he's turning his back on Israel with remarks like this.
It's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. That's why I've called for an immediate ceasefire.
And those who say he shares responsibility for the carnage in Gaza by providing Israel military aid, like Progressive Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib of Michigan.
Attacking the authority of the International Criminal Court and interfering in the legal process is nothing more than an attempt to prevent the genocidal maniac Netanyahu and his senior Israeli officials from being held accountable for those crimes against humanity. You are an enabler, President Biden.
Looking ahead to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago later this summer, there's at least 36 delegates representing those uncommitted primary ballots cast by those upset with the president's support for Israel. Though small in size, leaders of the group say they hope to take full advantage of being in the national spotlight. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atrel Nashar.
Iran is closer than ever to having multiple nuclear weapons, according to a new report from the UN's nuclear watchdog. The National Desk's Matt Gelka is in Washington with more. What can you tell us?
Well, good morning. A new report from the International Atomic Energy Agency shows Iran continues to stockpile and enrich uranium to a level just short of making it usable for nuclear weapons. Iran is looking to have economic sanctions lifted in exchange for slowing that program down. Of course, this is even more worrisome with the Israel-Hamas war still going on, with Israel and Iran directly striking each other for the first time earlier this year. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reports the Biden administration is asking allies to not censure Iran for the advancements in its nuclear program to try and ease tensions in the Middle East ahead of a big election year here. The administration is denying it. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National Desk, America's News Now.
And right now, China is conducting military drills around Taiwan. The CCP claims the drills are designed to test its ability to seize control of the island. The National Desk's Kayla Gaskin shows us what China's increasing aggression means for us right here in America.
In his inauguration speech last week, Taiwan's new president urging China to stop using its military to intimidate the island nation.
Choose dialogue over confrontation. Engage in cooperation with the legal government chosen by Taiwan's people.
Meanwhile, tensions also heating up between China and the Philippines. Disputes center around control of the South China Sea. The U.S. now sending more American troops to the Philippines to back up a longtime ally.
Chinese actions are certainly destabilizing to the region.
U.S. Admiral John Aquilino served as the military officer in charge of overseeing the Pacific, including China. He said during his past 3 years in charge, China built 400 aircraft, 20 major warships, and doubled its missile inventory.
They continue to be more aggressive in a variety of areas. They're challenging the current international rules to benefit an authoritarian society.
Aquilino calling on the U.S. and allies to keep pace. This comes as a new analysis from the American Enterprise Institute shows China spends far more on its military than the Chinese Communist Party claims. The report's author, Mackenzie Eglin, tells us China actually spends around $700 billion on defense each year, not $230 billion. This puts China on roughly equal footing with the U.S.'s military budget.
China has the globe's largest navy, the planet's largest army, the world's largest Coast Guard. It's more of a wake-up call that our dollars aren't going as far, that we need to have a greater sense of urgency in our own defense investments.
Amid this backdrop, the U.S.'s weapons stockpiles have shrunk considerably as America supports two allies at war, Ukraine and Israel, causing uneasiness among some military experts. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Russia has captured 2 more villages in Ukraine. Ukraine's defense ministry says the settlements are in the Kharkiv and Donetsk regions. Ukrainian military forces did manage, though, to fight off 7 Russian advances in a separate region earlier yesterday. The U.S. could soon allow offensive weapons sales to Saudi Arabia, according to a report by the Financial Times. It states that President Biden could lift the ban within the next few weeks, and it comes after he clamped down on Saudi Arabia in 2021, calling it a pariah state.
All right, live look right now over New York City with what could be the beginning of closing arguments in former President Trump's landmark trial over accusations falsified business records. After closing arguments wrap up, here's what we can expect to happen. The judge will instruct the jury, likely on Wednesday, on the governing of this case and the factors the jury can take into account during the deliberations. The deliberations will then proceed in secret. However, we could get some clues into what they're thinking through any notes sent to the judge with questions. For those charges, former President Trump could face up to 4 years in prison. He has pleaded not guilty and denied any wrongdoing. Right now, it's unclear whether prosecutors would even seek imprisonment at all in the event of a conviction or if the judge would impose a punishment. We're staying on top of any developments out of New York City this morning, and any new details, we'll have them both for you on air and online at thenationaldesk.com.
Well, Joe Biden, the president, may have gotten sensitive briefings over his private email account when he was vice president. Now, this is coming from Just the News. They are reporting while he was vice president, Joe Biden received sensitive communications via his private email accounts created under a fictitious identity, including foreign policy discussions with his national security advisor, schedules of meetings with cabinet secretaries, and a summary of at least one intelligence briefing to President Barack Obama, according to new emails. Now, President Biden is also facing a few questions here about visiting a potential witness in his son Hunter Biden's trial. Now, he met with Haley Biden Sunday evening. Now, keep in mind, she's the widow of his late son, Beau, and was later involved with Hunter as well. She is expected to be a witness in Hunter Biden's gun crime trial next month. Now, this visit does come nearly 9 years to the day when Beau Biden passed away. Ahead on the National Desk, a summer comeback, perhaps how the new crop of high school students are shaking up the notion that young people simply don't want to work. And diploma delayed, how a high school grad going off script about God caught a school off guard.
And breaking news at the Live Desk, 2 suspected killers, you can see right here, on the run this morning. 2 others caught after a prison break in Louisiana. The latest in the search coming up in 90 seconds. Welcome back. A manhunt right now on for these 2 men you see behind me. According to investigators, they broke out of the Tangipahoa Parish Jail north of New Orleans over the weekend. Police believe they are now out of the country. Monday, officials warned anyone assisting the inmates here in this escape could also face charges. In all, 4 inmates escaped. 2 others were found hiding in a dumpster behind a Dollar General store on Sunday. All 4 being held in connection with violent crimes, including homicide. Officials believe they escaped through a corroded area in the jail's fencing. The jail only found out about this escape when a concerned citizen who lived in the area reported seeing 2 of the men at a relative's house looking for a place to stay and looking for some help. The manhunt and investigation into how all of this happened still ongoing. Anyone with information is asked to call police right away. We'll update you on this story here at the Live Desk this morning.
The notion that Gen Z doesn't want to work may be all wrong. They may actually be helping out in the labor market, and we're talking about in a big way here. The National Desk, Janae Bowens joins us live now. Janae, you've been looking into all the numbers, breaking them down into how many teens are actually working.
Yeah, good morning, Angela. 38% of 16 to 19-year-olds are working. That's actually a 14-year high, so it looks like Gen Zers are reviving teen jobs. Now, back in the 1980s, nearly 2 in 3 16 to 19-year-olds were working or actively looking for work. That's according to Axios. Those numbers have been dropping since then and were especially low with millennials in the 2000s. Now, teens are in demand at restaurants and shops. Teens might also want to start their own business to make some extra cash.
If you are really good at a specific skill and you can sell this skill, then you can make a lot of money. Now, my personal one was a clothing brand. So if you're a good artist, you can sell your art. If you have some sort of physical skill set like building, landscaping, it doesn't take much but a Facebook post, a few hashtags, maybe an Instagram post to start getting some traction.
Now, the reason for the increase in teens working is because of high prices. No surprise there. Teens are getting part-time jobs to help their families pay for everyday needs. And younger workers' pay is rising higher than any other age group. According to ZipRecruiter, the average 17-year-old is making around $18 an hour, but some are making as much as $37. Now, with sports, camps, and volunteer opportunities, experts do not think we will see high numbers of teens working like we did in the 80s, which plays into the theory that kids today are growing up slower than previous generations. Experts say for teens who do decide to work, it'll better prepare them for their future long-term career.
$37 an hour? I remember when $10 was a big deal.
Right.
Still is in some cases. How many jobs are available for teens right now?
Right. So I found some new data from the firm Challenger, Gray & Christmas. They say in the coming weeks, employers are expected to add another 1.3 million summer jobs for teens. Angela, it looks like they have a lot of options.
That's good for them.
Yeah.
Well, Gen Z, millennials, next generation of leaders really shaping political policy as well. But as the National Desk, Matt Gelka tells us, the gap between the older and the younger generations on core issues have never been wider.
I mean, we're talking about this generation. I don't know what this generation is all about.
I don't either.
It's a whole new thing.
Well, they're fragile.
Young people have been a frequent target of television host Bill Maher. He ripped them on his Club Random podcast last month, but it wasn't for lack of confidence.
They don't know anything, but it doesn't sap their confidence in still opining on everything as if they did know something, like about Gaza.
Pro-Palestinian protests that engulfed college campuses this year emphasize how important the issue is to young people. But the differences in the ways a 68-year-old baby boomer like Maher thinks and how an 18 to 29-year-old Gen Zer thinks might be better summed up in some eye-opening charts compiled by Washington, D.C. strategist Bruce Mehlman, showing big differences between the olds and the youths.
I had found a story in the Washington Post about the difference in music tastes, and the 18 to 29 demographic are the only guys who didn't seem to like classic rock, and I found that ridiculous. So I dove in deeper to other differences.
It's not just guitar riffs. On foreign policy, people under 30 are much more sympathetic to Palestinians. But over 65, it's the complete opposite, with much more support for Israel. 52% of Gen Zers say they're politically independent, doubling the 26% of boomers. Young people are less likely to back capitalism compared to seniors, and Gen Zers are more likely to support socialism compared to their elders. But to Mehlman, maybe the most startling numbers involved patriotism. 76% of boomers say patriotism is very important to them, with just 32% of the kids saying the same.
True love of country is aiming to make it a better place. If younger people are quitting on religion and they're quitting on political parties, I hope they're not quitting on the country.
So do baby boomers and Gen Z agree on anything? Well, oddly enough, it might be money. A survey from late last year had boomers and zoomers both say around $126,000 a year would make them happy. But for millennials, it was more like $500,000. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
A coalition of U.S. states are defending American firearms makers from being held responsible for shootings in Mexico. Mexico's government says gun companies should be responsible for the violence because some of the guns came from U.S. manufacturers. A court ruled Mexico could sue these U.S. companies right here, which includes Smith & Wesson, Beretta, Glock, and even Colt. But the state coalition is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to reverse that decision. A Kentucky high school graduate has not gotten his diploma yet. After he went off script in his commencement speech, he encouraged his classmates to find God during his speech, and school leaders say it is not what he prepared. The National Desk's Chelsea Sick reports.
Micah Price's principal chose him to give a speech at the Campbell County High School graduation. Administrators approved the speeches, which are rehearsed by students. This part of his speech was approved.
I must give the honor, the praise, and the glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
District leaders say he was then supposed to continue into his speech. Instead, he encouraged his classmates to find God.
In this very word, tells us he is the light, he is the way, the truth, and the life. Class, anyone in the audience today, I'm here to tell you that if you don't have any of those things in your life, you can't seem to find the answer, that my Lord and Savior is your answer. He will give you the truth, give you the way, and the life.
Price says he didn't get his diploma at graduation because of it. Campbell County Superintendent Shelley Wilson said all speakers were told that going off their submitted speech or any unplanned choices at graduation may have repercussions, as they would at any school function. Price has been outspoken on TikTok.
I am in the wrong, technically, because I went against Campbell County Code, the rules.
Price says his story has led to people threatening school leaders.
But anybody who's taking a hateful route to this, I please ask that you would just take a chill pill and just time out, because, in 1 John it talks about how it is absolutely impossible to consider yourself a Christian if you cannot love your brother or your neighbor.
The superintendent says Price is graduated and he will get his diploma after he meets with the principal later this week.
And if you truly consider yourself a Christian, be loving and just pray for me. And we will get the diploma. Everything's going to be fine.
Chelsea Sick.
Coming up, new changes happening today when it comes to stocks and trading, how fast the money will be available. The details on that coming up and why in 90 seconds. Right now at the Live Desk, we're tracking a big change to the way stock trading is handled, and it begins this morning. It's called the T+1 settlement rule, and here's how it all works. Trades will now be settled in 1 day. Previously, it'd take up to 2 business days for broker-dealer transactions to process. The new rule has been in the works for a while. It'll apply to all stocks, bonds, municipal securities, and exchange-traded funds. Those in favor of the changes say this will help free up liquidity in the market and possibly reduce some volatility, perhaps. Overall, it's a shortened cycle between when the deal starts and ends. The shortened cycle from 2 to 1 days is partly in response to what we saw back in 2021 with all those meme stocks and the frenzy that went along with it. The 2-day period essentially exposed investors and the industry to unnecessary risks.
Mandatory evacuations are now in place in southern New Mexico as crews work to fight the Blue 2 fire. It started last week due to a lightning strike. Our team on the ground spoke with county officials. They say the fire is still 0% contained and has burned nearly 7,000 acres. Residents nearby the area are on standby, ready to leave at any moment.
We're ready to evacuate if we need to. Usually when you get a go order, you get 30 minutes or less to be out.
The good news so far, no buildings have been destroyed, but crews say if wind conditions do not improve, the fire could spread closer to the homes in that area. Ahead in our next half hour, fast food fight. Fast food chains adding cheaper combos, but is it too late to win back customers who took off after high prices? Also, wicked weather. Families are cleaning up after severe weather tore apart their communities. We're tracking any possible threats ahead. But first, here's a look at America's news and weather where you live.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Munn with a look at the Northeast. As we head through the daytime today, we are going to see any rain end in Maine, and then we will see the sunshine return for many areas across the Northeast for your Tuesday. Notice some showers, a couple downpours possible through the afternoon and evening. Then those clear out. We are going to see a mostly dry day on Wednesday, maybe some rain down to our south, and then the high temperatures today will top out in the 70s and 80s.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Your Tuesday should be a lot quieter and drier than yesterday. We're looking at just some scattered clouds, mostly sunny skies, a stray shower not out of the question, but looks like Wednesday's got a better shot at seeing some rain and thunderstorm activity. High temperatures on your afternoon. High Tuesday looks like in the mid-80s. Wednesday will be just a few degrees cooler, reaching the low 80s. Luckily, it is going to be much quieter going from here on up into the weekend.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Afternoon highs are looking toasty once again, still above our averages for this time of year. Upper 80s in the northern part of our area, 90s for most of us. We get into the mid and upper 90s in central and south Florida. Now that frontal boundary will be making its way across North Florida. We're also going to see some isolated showers in Louisiana. Most of us, though, remain dry and clear as that frontal boundary makes its way through Florida. It will transition into a stationary front, and then we'll see it lift back up to the north.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Today, some scattered showers and a few rumbles of thunder across the Great Lakes. As we head into your day tomorrow, a lot of sun across a lot of the plains, but we still have some showers out in the eastern portions of the Ohio Valley. More thunderstorms developing, though, by Thursday across the plains from the Dakotas down into Nebraska and Kansas, and that will continue moving east as we head into your Friday and weekend. So all in all, temperature-wise, running pretty close to normal the next several days.
Good Tuesday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at our forecast across the region, and we have a severe thunderstorm chance through the day today. It's an enhanced risk across central Texas from Austin down towards San Antonio up towards San Angelo and Abilene. That is that enhanced risk for strong to severe storms. So it'll be later on this afternoon and this evening across the dry line of West Texas, showers and thunderstorms developing and then pushing to the east. Temperatures in the 80s and 90s for afternoon highs. We'll quiet things down, though, as we head towards your Wednesday, except still seeing some showers and thunderstorms near Louisiana.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. We're getting our warmest day of the year in parts of southern Idaho and Boise, coming in at 88. Downright hot with triple-digit heat for parts of the Southwest from Las Vegas to Phoenix, where we're still dealing with the ozone pollution advisory in the Phoenix area. Now, high pressure is breaking down, and this cold front is going to spawn plenty of showers and thunderstorms, working its way down into Utah and Nevada. That's the scene from here.
The National Desk, America's News Now.
Right now on the National Desk, America's News Now, fast food fight. Restaurant chains are battling it out for the lowest prices, but customers say affordable food is no longer on the menu. And closing arguments, prosecutors and the defense are set to give their final words in the Trump hush money case. But does the verdict matter to voters? And cleanup efforts are underway across the country as more severe weather is threatening Americans may be traveling home for their holiday weekend trips. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Angela Brown in for Jan Jeffcoat. It's Tuesday, May 28th. Today, communities are still recovering from the deadly storms over the weekend. As Americans are headed home, some may be facing some dangerous conditions. Let's go right to Mark Boyle, standing by at the live desk. Now, Mark, you are tracking really some severe storms that are developing right now.
These storms have popped up within the past hour or so, Angela, and down in the Dallas area near Austin. They're dealing with that. Millions of Americans preparing to head back home after the long weekend. The weather causing some major effects there. Let's talk about that right now and talk about what we're seeing in Texas. Active alerts there. And this is Dallas to my left right here. To my right, these are the active alerts. You can see them really firing up. And it's Dallas, and then those storms continue to move south and east. And there's a lot of diversions there. The FAA issuing a ground stop for DFW. That expires at 9 a.m. Eastern. That could change. Now, take a look at this and listen. This is in Arlington, Texas, not far from Dallas. You can hear the tornado siren going off in that neighborhood. At the same time, the central United States still recovering from dangerous storms over the weekend. This is new video from the Claremore, Oklahoma area after tornado caused widespread damage there. Over the past week, severe weather has been to blame for the deaths of nearly 24 people across several states. In Beaumont, Texas, we spoke with one couple who had a damaged home. They also had to deal with this right here, a tree coming through the roof. They were inside sleeping at the time. Take a listen to what they had to say.
It was just very scary because I didn't know if it was still coming down, if it was going to continue to fall, if it had stopped. So very, very not fun way to wake up on a Monday morning.
So when I ran in there, there was literally insulation on her in the bed. So it was really scary.
Back to the storms happening right now this morning down in the Dallas area. On social media, one person said the wind clocked in at over 80 miles an hour. Power is a big deal. This was right around 35,000 when we came in the studio this morning in Texas. Now over 600,000 customers in the dark. Kentucky with 82,000 customers without power. Arkansas, Missouri, and West Virginia still tens of thousands of people without power this morning. Another look at the radar as we track the active alerts all through northern Texas, stretching as far as Oklahoma, and this will continue to fire up here. We'll see if things change over the next couple of hours. A closer look at the region that could see the threats today covers really the entire state of Texas, and right in the central portions from San Antonio up to Dallas, we're seeing that level 3 threat and really seeing it play out right now with those strong storms moving through. Keeping a close eye for you all morning here at the live desk and online all the time at the National Weather Desk. That's part of the nationaldesk.com.
And we're going to stick with the weather a little bit here and what could be a very hot summer. Right now, millions of Americans across the country are facing the threat maybe of extreme heat, with another summer of record-breaking temperatures are forecasted to hit parts of the U.S. The National Desk's Jeff Harris spoke with experts about ways we can protect ourselves and also our loved ones.
Experts are really pushing for more safeguards to be put in place specifically for people working outside this summer in areas that are likely to experience that extreme heat.
In the next couple of weeks, another round of record-breaking temperatures are expected to hit the United States.
It's going to be happening, and it needs to be on our radars for dealing with.
An implementation science director, Daniel Smith, tells us extreme heat is exactly what it sounds like.
Whenever the temperature rises to a point that the residents can no longer cope.
But with the extreme heat can come extreme consequences, which is why Smith says safeguards need to be put in place, especially for those working outside.
To have access to clean, cool water, we need them to have access to 20-minute breaks, possibly longer breaks, depending on how hot it gets every hour. And we need them to have access to those breaks in the shade, in areas that they can cool off.
Smith says it's also important to forecast a few days in advance. That way, work schedules can get adjusted based off of the heat.
We can shift work times to be, let's say, 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., have workers take a break in the middle of the day.
Plus, if possible, make cooling stations accessible throughout the day, especially in some northern states where many homes might not have central air.
So just giving people access to air conditioning can be a big thing that we do to protect health.
Now, according to NOAA, most of New Mexico, Utah, Arizona, Texas, and Colorado have the highest chance of experiencing hotter than normal temperatures. Maine down to Pennsylvania and also New Jersey also have a 40 to 50% chance of that extreme heat as well. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Today, prosecutors and the defense are set to deliver closing arguments in former President Donald Trump's hush money case in New York City. Prosecutors are expected to tell the jury that they can trust the testimony they heard, while the defense will probably go after the credibility of witnesses like Michael Cohen. Cohen was the star witness for the prosecution. He was previously convicted for lying under oath before Congress. The jury is expected to get the case once closing arguments are wrapped up and after Judge Juan Merchan provides them with instructions. And we're also looking into the impact, if any at all really, the verdict could have on the election. President Biden is expected to speak from the White House on that trial decision, but a Republican political strategist says it doesn't matter.
I would hazard a guess that a lot of people think this case and the Georgia case were politically driven, politically motivated, and that'll weigh heavily in their minds in discounting the seriousness of this of a conviction that's case if it in fact happens.
And really only time will tell if a conviction would matter in this case. If that happens, the most recent national polling from Emerson College right here still has Trump up by 5 points. While including third-party candidates, Trump had 44%. You can see Biden there with 39%. And now to Texas and that highly anticipated primary election runoff that is getting underway right now. The outcome could decide the political direction of that state. On one side, you have Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton. They want to unseat 16 state lawmakers who have voted against their agenda over the past year. Now, on the other side are those members who voted in favor of impeaching Paxton and against Abbott's school choice bill. In Ohio, was shaping up to be another major day for President Biden in getting on the November ballot in that state. The National Desk's Matt Galka is here with why today Ohio needs state lawmakers to come together to change all that and get Biden on the ballot.
Yeah, this has to do with the date of the Democratic National Convention. It's being held August 19th through the 22nd, where Joe Biden is expected to officially get the nomination. But Ohio's ballot deadline is August 7th. Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine has called a special legislative session to try and get a fix, and that's also wrapped up in other state legislation that's meant to ban foreign money from contributing to Ohio ballot measures. Now, Ohio changed its certification deadline for candidates from 60 days to 90 days, and they've had to adjust their deadline twice in 2012 and 2020 to make sure candidates from both parties can still be on the state's ballot. Ohio's electoral votes could play a big role come November, and that special session starts today. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National Desk, America's News Now.
And now to your money. Many of you may be still feeling the pinch of high prices. Restaurants or stores are really focused on bringing down prices to attract more customers. The National Desk, Janae Bowens, joins us live. Now, what type of special discounts are you looking into that some places are actually offering?
Yeah, Angela, from burgers for a penny to baby wipes for 99 cents, businesses are doing all they can to get your money.
A trip to McDonald's isn't as cheap as it used to be.
Actually, I would like for them to put some good stuff on sale and maybe a sandwich, fries, and a drink. For me, it probably costs like $14, $15.
The Daily Mail points out McDonald's prices have doubled in 10 years. Back in 2014, you could get a McDouble for just $1.19. Today, you'll pay $3.19. And if the shake machine is working, you'll pay $4.49 for an Oreo McFlurry. It used to be just $2.39.
We've lived through a period of incredibly high inflation.
McDonald's has seen less revenue from lower-income customers and reduced foot traffic.
When prices go up, particularly for food, it's low-income customers that are often the most sensitive to those price changes.
There are now reports that the fast food chain is going to start offering $5 meal deals. It's not just them. Wendy's is offering 1-cent junior cheeseburgers until June 2nd. And Walmart, Target, and Aldi are discounting thousands of items.
So as a result of families spending more on food, they're a lot more attuned to how much they're spending, especially when they get to treat themselves to a meal out. So it's not surprising to me that supermarkets and fast food chains are really trying to appeal to consumers on price.
Now, even though inflation is coming down, that just means the rate at which prices are going up has slowed. Prices for food are 26.95% higher now than they were before the pandemic. Now, experts want me to remind you to be sure to shop around for the best deals.
So I can get a junior bacon cheeseburger or something for a penny?
Yeah, from Wendy's you can. It's their special right now.
Why did you tell me that? Straight ahead on the National Desk, curfew chaos. Baltimore police cracking down on juvenile crime as residents blame parents for this surge in violence.
And here at the Live Desk this morning, an update for you. The Massachusetts stabbing suspect set to appear in court. What we can expect coming up in 90 seconds.
This is a National Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From multiple Washington state troopers hit on the highway to a beached whale along Oregon's coast, we are taking the pulse of America, but we start in Maryland, where Baltimore police are cracking down on crime this summer.
Almost from the beginning, this holiday weekend was buzzing
15 dirt bikes on the lot
with the sounds of trouble.
In reference to somebody trying to break into the front of the house.
And just before midnight Sunday night came this.
Please enforce anyone drinking alcohol in the open.
The message aimed at officers who were detailed to Fells Point, where dozens of teenagers had filled the streets. Some of them were fighting mad and fueled by alcohol. Photos we obtained show the crowd rolling in coolers and preparing for business. This homemade concoction sold for $10. And regardless of age, if you had the money, you had a drink. But for the first time in a long time, officers were enforcing the open container law, confiscating and eliminating any number of bottles and bags from any number of people.
A rare sighting from the shore. A humpback whale floating in the water over the weekend, now washing up in Nehalem Bay State Park.
We took some pictures of it and we had some binoculars and then it drifted past the jetty out of sight, and then we heard that it had washed ashore this morning, so we came to check it out.
Nick Hankins and his friends saw the whale floating before it washed up and made the trip down the beach to see it up close himself.
It was obviously bloated, so it's probably been dead for a couple of days.
But while the work is underway, Milstein asked the public to keep their distance so researchers can study the whale in the condition as it washed up on shore.
A message to Washington state drivers after two different troopers were hit by suspected drunk drivers.
Stop drinking and driving, and they stopped putting us at risk.
Sergeant Anthony Califano tells me one of the crashes happened here in Linwood near 44th Avenue West. The trooper had his normal driving lights turned on when the other driver rear-ended his patrol SUV.
He quickly realized that vehicle wasn't slowing down, braced for contact, and then initially was impacted in the rear on the left corner panel.
Hours after that crash, another one just a few miles away on State Route 525 near 164th Street.
We are doing our best efforts. We're out there every single day doing everything we possibly can. Obviously, Trooper Chris Gadd was hit and killed on March 2nd. He was one of our detachment members, so that's still very fresh in our minds.
New this morning, we're learning new information about the man charged in connection to a stabbing spree at a movie theater and a fast food restaurant in Massachusetts. The suspect at the center of all of this man, 26-year-old Jared Ravisa. 6 people were stabbed at a restaurant and a movie theater, including 4 girls, and for weeks there have been questions about who this man is. Well, court records indicate the suspect bragged about being a pro skier, a philanthropist, and a leader of a local marketing group. Now, this same suspect is also being investigated for a murder in Connecticut as well. In court documents, the father of the suspect said his son actually just had a mental break and even attacked him inside their home. A wild case still with many unanswered questions this morning. The suspect is facing several counts of assault with intent to murder and 2 counts of assault with battery attached to it and dangerous weapons stemming from those attacks at the movie theater and the McDonald's.
After a decades-long decline, juvenile crime appears to be back up in a big way and taking a major toll, not just in America's major cities. Full Measure Cheryl Atkinson reports from rural Florida, where they're dealing with a one-of-a-kind, shocking, and horrific crimes committed by kids.
Marion County Sheriff's Deputy Paul Bloom drives us to a dirt road neighborhood in the middle of Central Florida's Ocala National Forest,
They couldn't decide if they want to do car burglaries or go rob somebody for their marijuana.
where unthinkable tragedy unfolded last March. 3 victims shot execution style, just 16 and 17 years old. Then another stunner.
We are shocked not only are the victims juveniles, but the murderers are juveniles as well.
One of the accused killers, Christopher Atkins, just 12 years old. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods.
I looked in the eyes of the mother of that 12-year-old, and it broke my heart down deep inside. It makes you wonder, as law enforcement, as what we see, what is the world going to turn out to be beyond us?
In a twist, police say the 3 accused killers and the 3 victims were driving around together, plotting a night of crime to get marijuana. Across the country, children are increasingly committing and becoming victims in serious crimes. The latest numbers put out by the FBI are more than 3 years old, but already in 2020 they showed murders committed by a single juvenile up 30%. Murders involving multiple juveniles up 65%. More recent stats from local governments are as troubling. In Montgomery County, Maryland, juvenile violent crime went up 329% in 2023. When we look at the nationwide concern over rise in juvenile crime, what do you think is the answer?
Accountability. We have to change that. I don't have no immediate solutions. I do know if we don't change, it's only going to get worse.
The 3 boys charged in the triple murder are awaiting trial. They're charged as adults. So they could be in prison for life.
That's exactly right. At minimum. And truthfully, that's where they should be.
In Maryland, where some of the worst juvenile crime spikes are happening, some officials say state reforms that dial back on punishment for juveniles is making the problem worse. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
Here at the live desk, a monkey on the loose in South Carolina. You see the video here behind me, finally caught. How this all went down when we come right back. All right, so this was all the talk over the past few days. A monkey on the loose in South Carolina. People were talking about it, right? They were talking about it and the video. New this morning, we can report the pet has been captured and returned. It was on the run since Friday. Take a look at this video here. Police say the owner was trying to capture the primate, just couldn't do it, so called in some professional help to do so. Everyone seemed to be looking for the 15-year-old snow monkey named Bradley. You see right there at the top of that structure. He was spotted several times over the two-day period, then finally tracked down in the Waterboro community that is west of Charleston.
I mean, can you imagine seeing that in your neighborhood, Mark? A longtime umpire with the reputation of one of the worst in the MLB and who lost a 2021 lawsuit against the league alleging racial discrimination is finally retiring. Angel Martinez is known for making terrible calls in recent years. Both ESPN and USA Today are reporting he reached a settlement to leave the league after 2 weeks of negotiations. Last year, Hernandez ranked dead last in a correct call rate analysis and now ranks 67th out of 85 umpires. Well, it takes a lot to knock out Hall of Fame boxer Mike Tyson, and an ulcer flare-up was not enough. Tyson suffered a medical scare during a flight from Miami to LA. He became nauseous and dizzy from an ulcer flare-up. His team says he's doing great, though, and the setback will not impact his upcoming fight with Jake Paul in Texas. It will be Tyson's first professional match since 2005. Meanwhile, some really unfortunate news out of the NBA. Basketball legend and renowned sports commentator Bill Walton has passed away. The Hall of Fame center and the two-time champion passed away at the age of 71 after a prolonged battle with cancer. The sports world is paying tribute to Walton on social media, everywhere really, talking about his many achievements, winning a record 88 straight games at UCLA, the first overall selection in the 1974 draft, 2 NBA titles, and also he was an MVP during the finals as well.
Right here at the Live Desk, holiday travelers hitting some snags this morning. How the travel forecast looks today. Dallas, a major issue. We'll talk about that straight ahead in 90 seconds. Welcome back, everyone. Memorial Day travel was bumpy for millions of travelers Monday due to severe storms. Thankfully, things looking better for most of the country today, but that's not the case in Texas as we show you a live look right now at the radar. Right now, storms are pummeling Dallas and the Waco region. And another look for you right now, take a look here. This is a live look over the DFW area. That's what the airport looks like, and the storms continue to go through that area, causing delays and cancellations. That'll continue for the major hubs. Houston could get in on this as well. There's a ground stop in place until 9 a.m. Eastern time for DFW. Misery map, what draws your attention? This area right here. This area, and the more red we see, the worse it is. Dallas has seen it. They will continue to as strong storms have come through. More than 104 flights have been delayed at this point. That's our time for this hour of the National Desk. Now here's a look at America's news and weather where you live.